Okay, welcome to our New York Giants Preservation Society meeting for tonight, a Monday night, June 9th, 2025, with John Husman. John has a brand new book called Roger Bresnahan, A Baseball Life. John is going to be discussing his book. First, I want to send out my sympathies to John. We were supposed to have John later in the week, but his beloved Toledo Walleye hockey team failed to win the Kelly Cup. So we decided we were going to schedule it today because it was an off day and hope that they'd play in games 6 or 7. And unfortunately, they fell a little short. As far as any news goes, want to wish you all the happiest Father's Day, Grandfather's Day, whatever. And if you're just a caregiver and you're a father in that aspect, happy Father's Day. Also on Sunday, the Staten Island Ferry Hawks will be having Bobby Thompson Bobblehead Day. If you're want to go to the game, I sent out a link to get some reduced ticket prices for that game. Next Wednesday will be the 1 year anniversary of the passing of Willie Mays. I sent out a YouTube I don't even know what it is, an invitation for a live YouTube at 2 o'clock on Wednesday for anybody in this group, any of the 425 subscribers to our YouTube channel, and anybody on YouTube, if they want to come on live, if I figure out how it works, I think I did it right. And you could talk about Willie Mays' remembrances, recollections, which will lead us to our next meeting next Wednesday night with Shayna Dom. Shayna was the main person in charge of Willie's Celebration of Life, which was held July of last year, but I thought it would be appropriate that with Willie's passing on the 18th of June, that we would have her on to discuss how that was all set up. And I think it'll be a wonderful evening. Now, tonight, John is going to talk about his new book on Roger Bresnahan. Roger Bresnahan is one of those, Hall of Fame New York Giants that nobody's really spoken about. This is the first biography on him. And an amazing character of baseball who did a lot of wonderful things that helped him become a Hall of Famer. John is also an historian for the Toledo Mud Hens. All you MASH fans, when we do our Q&A, if you have any questions to John about the Toledo Mud Hens, feel free to ask. But for now, we're going to get started. John Husman, welcome to the New York Giants Preservation Society. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thanks for those condolences on the walleye. A heartbreaker for us, but nonetheless a great season. Finished second in the final round. Well, we were runners up, but a very good season nonetheless. But let's talk about Roger. Well, I put some pictures on here. Can I share it now, Gary?
Yes, you can. Let me get that for you. Hold on. Host tools. Share screen. There you go.
Oh, we got it. Oh, sorry, I'm an amateur at this, fellas
Okay, good job.
and ladies.
Nice job, John. You see, you can teach a old dog new tricks.
Well, I guess you can. I guess you can. Well, as Gary said, there's a picture of the book came out about a year ago, and he's also said it was the first biography of Roger, and I'm happy to be part of that. I do a lot of presentations around Toledo. Toledo is Roger's hometown. He's a Toledo story. He had a home here his whole life. And one of the questions I get right off the bat from everybody is, who's Roger Bresnahan? Just like most people, baseball fans do, with the exception of your group. I think many of you know who he was. But I'd like to show this slide first, just to give a little bit of a backdrop on what kind of a ball player he was. Jack Sheridan was a writer for the Sporting News and other St. Louis papers, and he was in St. Louis the whole time that Roger was in the National League. St. Louis had two teams, as you know, in the dead ball era, and so Sheridan saw everybody that played Major League Baseball in those years come through St. Louis, and he said of Roger in 1926, "No man except perhaps Cobb exerted so great an individual force in a ball game, either behind the bat, at the bat, or on the bases, as Bresnahan." That puts him in some pretty special context, and that's very high praise. And I just like to start folks out with that don't know him. These are Roger's parents, Mary and Cornelius, or Mary and Michael Bresnahan. Both were born in Tralee, Ireland. Uh, and they're important to this story because they are thoroughbred Irishmen, Irish people, and so was Roger. However, Roger lived three lives for the entirety of his life. When he started playing ball, he knocked a year off his age. The ball players are still doing that. There's really no shame in that one. But he tried to Irishanize his name a little bit. It was Roger Philip Bresnahan, and he told everybody, and it's been in the record books until recently, uh, uh, as Roger Patrick Bresnahan, a little more Irish. And finally, he claimed to be born in Ireland. Uh, Hence the moniker Duke of Tralee, which he picked up when he was in St. Louis after he left the Giants. I'm not 100% positive, but I'm about as certain as I can be that Roger started that himself, and he certainly perpetuated that myth for up to the last year of his life when he went down to the courthouse in Toledo, Ohio, the Lucas County Courthouse, and registered his own booth and set the record straight, saying that he did not want to dishonor his mother uh, with those three lies. So he leveled. And most places now, most records have the record straight, which I'm pretty happy about. Glad to have a hand in that. As I said, Roger spent his whole life in Toledo. We know virtually nothing about his childhood. He did not go to high school. He started playing ball early. Uh, he was playing in the highest level amateur league in Toledo at age 16. I continued that in 19 or 19, 18, uh, 1896. I'm off. He started in 1896 and also played in 1897 in that league. Played a full season and really played well enough that he was hired for a semi-pro team the next year that played in Lima, Ohio. He did so well at Lima in the first year as an 18-year-old that he received an offer from the Washington Nationals to play for them. And he went there in August, took several weeks to get ready, and pitched his first game in late August of 1897 against the St. Louis club in the National League. Pitched a shutout in that game, got a couple of hits. Uh, and went on to a 4-0 season, although he wasn't really that effective, but he had a good record, played a center field game and hit a bit too. Uh, Looked good enough that the Nationals reserved him, offered him a contract the next year. We don't know the whole story on that, but he balked at it, and they released him. So he signed with the Toledo Mud Hens. Had a good month or 6 weeks starting the season with them. Suffered a serious injury, broke his femur in a game on Memorial Day as a pitcher. He's been a pitcher all along. I didn't mention that. Uh, he was out for a while, and he picked up with the Minneapolis Millers and washed out there. Came back to Toledo again. Bounced around a couple of other teams and signed later that year with the Manistee Millionaires in Manistee, Michigan. Called the Millionaires because reportedly Manistee had more millionaires per capita than any other city in the country. Uh, He went there as a pitcher, took a regular turn, but it was an everyday player. He played mostly center field, third base, and some catching in addition to his regular pitching turn. And did very well. He grew in his ability. He grew in body. He matured, got bigger and stronger. So that at the end of the 1900 season, he was again offered by the Chicago Orphans, now the Cubs of the National League. He uh, he went with them very late in the season in September, and I'm going to show you another slide. That's a quote from a Chicago paper. I know you can read, but I like it, and I'll read it just because I like the sound of it. But one of the joys I had in doing this book and reading the newspapers was enjoying the writing of the sports writers of the day. It's just terrific, as I'm sure many of you know. But here's what we will read. The title is Cubs Lose on a Mad Dash to the Plate by Bresnahan. He appeared as a pinch runner in the ninth inning when the Cubs were behind the Cardinals, and he advanced to third base and made a dash for home, as the headline said, on a hit ball. And here's what they wrote. On the first ball, Bradley skipped to second, and then Bresnahan tore for home. Gregor threw down to second. The ball came back lightning fast, and Bresnahan, writhing along on his vest buttons, felt something descended him like a brick on an extra ripe tomato. Pretty colorful stuff, but it didn't do his career any good. Uh, he he caught half a game a couple days later and was let go, so he was very short-lived in Chicago. But when he made that mad dash home, uh, the third baseman for St. Louis was John McGraw, who saw that. Uh, that kind of play was the kind of play that McGraw, is all you know, practiced and admired, and he may have remembered that. We don't know, but the next spring he signed Roger to a contract with the Baltimore Orioles. McGraw was a free agent, went to Baltimore, was a part owner of the team there. It was a brand new team in the brand new American League, and Roger was part of the building blocks, one of the building blocks that McGraw chose to come with him. Still pitching. He pitched all through spring training, pitched at the start of the season, and he washed out. He just couldn't make the grade as a pitcher. But in one of his last games pitching, the veteran catcher for the Orioles was Wilbert Robertson, who was injured. So Tax Latimer was pitching or catching for the Orioles, and he had an awfully time throwing, and Roger was frustrated, and McGraw was frustrated. And there's stories abound on what happened next. And we're not sure. There's so many apocryphal stories, but what we know is Joe McGinnity pitched for Baltimore the next day, and Roger caught. So that was his introduction to catching in the big leagues. He Robbie Wilbur Robertson got well. He was the primary catcher. Roger was not a catcher. He couldn't oust him, but he had great potential, and McGraw recognized that. He he played him in other positions. He played virtually everywhere on the field, and caught part time. The same thing happened the next year, but in the middle of the following season, this is a story in itself that I'm sure most of you know. McGraw moved to New York and the Giants, and he brought along with him five of the Orioles, including Roger Bresnahan. When he got to New York, Frank Bowerman was there, another fine catcher. Roger spent about 3 years trying to wrestle the catching job away from Frank Bowerman. Uh, he finally did it, but it took him a while, as I said, to do it. He was mainly a center fielder for McGraw. In 1904, the Giants, of course, won the pennant under him. Roger was the regular center fielder and batted really out of the box 350 and was in a race with Honus Wagner for the whole season. Uh, but he was still a part-time catcher. Moving on to the next season, the Giants in 1905 had what McGraw called was his best team of all time. They, of course, won the pennant. Roger uh, and Bowerman about split the catching duties that year, but Roger was a valuable utility man. And by the time his career was over, he had numerous games at every position on the field. Uh, but when World Series time came against the Philadelphia A's, Max selected Roger to be the catcher. And the World Series of 1905 is what made Roger Bresnahan's name. He caught every game, batted leadoff as the leading hitter, played airless ball, and allowed only one stolen base. Uh, Drew rave reviews. Of course, Matty drew the most raves. He pitched three shutouts in that series, but Roger had a lot to do with that with his fine catching performance. So with that World Series, Roger was off and running. I have another picture here of Roger in his World's Champions shirt of 1906, his jersey of 1906. Uh, Tricky Mike Donlin appears quite often in his jersey. Not many players do, but this one was taken by Roger's wife, his first wife, who he had married in 1904. She took this photograph herself and it was saved in a scrapbook. And it's not good quality, but it's a significant memento nonetheless, and it's signed uh, by AMB Adeline Marcella Bresnahan, and she said that this is my world's champion. Roger earned the catching job with that performance, and I'm going to just give you a few highlights of his Giants career, and then maybe come back to some more of his involvement with the Giants after he's done playing, some things that you may not know about. 1907, uh, uh, the Giants were in the playoff race going into June, playing very well. They were behind the Cubs again. Cubs had won in 06, and just behind the Pirates, but very close. They went into Cincinnati and playing against the Cincinnati Reds and pitcher Andy Coakley. Uh, he was struck above the left ear by a pitch ball.
Series of and see people with life-changing amounts of money and cheer and get
Please
excited.
shut off whoever has their thing on. Thank
I
you.
don't want to lose that, right? Because too often now I'm seeing somebody win a tournament,
Excuse me.
people shake hands, and I'm like, well, who won? I can't tell.
There you go. Anyway, the ball struck him so hard that several accounts said that the first baseman caught it on the fly. Rogers in a heap uh, on the ground. A priest is summoned from the stands. They give him first rights. He was a Roman Catholic, and they did that for him. They revived him about 30 minutes later, got him to the locker room of the clubhouse, and he went out again. He was hospitalized, and the news was horrific. First, it was he's dying and he'll never play again, and then it got to be, well, he may be able to play next year, and then it got to be, well, maybe with a little rest, he might be able to play some this year. But in the meantime, he was actually reported dead. One newspaper carried that, and McGraw was told he had died. Naturally, Mac was beside himself in grief, even summoned up prayer, which I understand was unusual for him, and he said so himself, but he did it on that occasion. So that's just a significant event in his life that I did not know much about as a New York Giant. By the way, the next batter, Dan McGann, was struck on the wrist by Coakley, fractured his arm, and he didn't get back all year. Roger did make it back uh, in an unbelievable 3.5 weeks against his doctor's orders. He didn't catch for a while, but he played center field. And oddly enough, he returned to the Polo Grounds, and the Reds were there, and you would know that Andy Coakley was the pitcher. And Roger got a single his first time up. People wondered if he'd be able to stand in the box as he formerly had, but he did, and he hit then. And when he came in from center field for the Giants at bat in the first inning, he stopped by the mound and shook Coakley's hand. That's quite a story. Uh, Also happening that year, uh, Roger was wearing shin guards. He had devised a set of those himself. He wasn't the first person to wear shin guards uh, by any means, but he was the first one to wear them openly, take the abuse and the ridiculing and the hazing that he did. And if anybody could take it, Roger did. By the end of the season, many catchers were wearing them, and it wasn't long before all catchers were. In fact, in the Beaning game, Admiral Schlee, the Reds catcher who later came to the Giants, tried him on for the first time. Time with the Giants was uh, really uneventful until the great season of 1908, which everybody knows about. Giants fans, American League fans, the whole world knows about that, particularly because both leagues had such great races that went down to the last wire. I'll show you a horrible picture, but it's significant. This is you can read the title, The Trio of Toledo Giants. This was in the spring of 1908. On the left is Roger. Uh, Roy Beecher is in the center, and Fred Merkle on the right. All three were Toledo's. Merkle came to Toledo when he was 15 years old uh, and was the rest of his life here. Beecher did not, he pitched several games for the Giants in 1908 and the next year, but did not quite make the grade. Uh, but their Roger had a what he called a school for giants at the YMCA in Toledo during the winter, and brought both of them along. And as you know, Merkel turned out to be a fine ball player, but Beecher did not. Uh, Moving on through his playing season there in 1908, we all know the Merkel game and what happened there and the loss of the playoff. But heading up to not the playoff, excuse me, the makeup game, but just before the end of the season, the New York World ran a poll among its readers and asked them to vote for the New York Giants that they thought was doing the most to help the Giants win the pennant. Christy Mathewson, I think, won 37 games, 11 shutouts, and led the led the league in virtually everything. But Roger topped him in that readers' popularity poll by a 4-1 margin, which I think is really significant. We had one example earlier of what the fans thought of, or what one writer thought of Roger, what he saw him play. This is what those fans thought, at least after the 1908 season. Well, after the 1908 season, uh, Roger is traded to the Cardinals. Mac was proud to say it. He did this on more than one occasion. He said that he would never stand in the way of one of his players advancing himself, and he did not do it in Rogers' case. He traded him to the Cardinals, but he got his due. He got four of the Cardinals' best players, and Roger realized his ambition to be a player manager. He went to the worst team in the National League by far, perennial last place finishers. He he improved the winning of the team slightly the first couple of years. He greatly improved attendance and consequently uh, profits improved to the extent so that after 2 years, the Cardinals were able to wipe out all the debt they had acquired over the previous decade. Uh, Rogers' game was as he played it, he taught it. It was as he learned it from McGraw. It was hard nosed, win at any cost, do whatever you got to do to win. The fans loved it. They won a little bit, but they were very successful at the game. Uh, the owner, Stanley Robeson of the Cardinals, died during his tenure. He willed the team to his niece, Helene Britton, who was initially very enamored with Roger, put all her trust in him, uh, allowed him to continue complete operation of the baseball club, everything from travel to trades and managing on the field as Robeson did. She trusted him and got good results. He improved even more. 1911, though, she was surrounded, brought people in to help her that wanted to tighten up the purse strings and control a little bit more. And this is a story in itself, too. But she had offered Roger a 5-year contract, given him a 5-year contract at $10,000 a year, and a second contract, a civil contract that gave him 10% of the team's profits. Never been anything like that, and he stood to do very well. But Helene's advisors, her president, drew the reins in on Roger. One thing led to another, and after 1 year with that contract, she fired him. She couldn't do that. Roger had ironclad contracts, and he fought it, and he fought it with the National League and the National Commission. Uh, as you know, baseball does everything they can to keep things out of the courts, and they did that in this case and reached a settlement. Roger was uh, given a severance and share of the profits for that year. And to his advantage, he was made a free agent. National League clubs were after him: Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, the Cubs mainly. $30,000 for 3 years, and the Cubs offered him more and a signing bonus. We don't know how much, but he took it and was glad to have it. All of a sudden, Rogers, Chicago Cub. He went there in 1913, and lo and behold, there's a good catcher there. Jimmy Archer's their catcher, and there's not a place for him in the lineup. Uh, So he really starts to develop his skill as a pitching coach there, as a backup catcher. Uh, does much the same thing the next year, but after the second year of his contract, the Reds had fired Johnny Evers and brought in Hank O'Day to manage and bypass Roger. But the year after that, uh, they hired Roger to be player manager, giving him another signing bonus and another long contract. This was 1913. Again, in 1913, by the way, Roger did pretty well. He had him in the race most of the season with a team that really wasn't too good. He went to the winter meetings after the 1913 season, and there was a lot going on there. The peace was being made between the Federal League and the and Major League Organized Baseball. That was going on, and a deal was struck. And part of that deal was to Rogers' benefit. The Cubs were bought by Charles Wiegman, who also owned the Chicago Whales in the Federal League. He had Joe Tinker as manager, wanted to keep Joe, but he's got Roger with a contract. So he settles with Roger, gives him some going away money too, so that further adds to his pockets. Uh, in the meantime, Charles Summers owns and had for some time the Toledo American Association franchise as well as the American League franchise in Cleveland. He had moved the Toledo club in 1914 to Cleveland so they could have a ball game in Cleveland every day and keep the feds out. And he was successful in that. So the American Association was anxious to find a home for that team. They liked Roger too, and they did all they could to help him acquire the squad. And just before the 1916 season, Roger became the owner of the Toledo Mud Hens. Right here, I wanted to say two things about the Merkle game, and pardon me, gentlemen and ladies, but I'll back up. There were two things that struck me about the Merkle game. One was, where was Roger? We all have heard about the commotion and the throwing of the ball into the stands and players all over the field and fans all over the field. There is not a word uh, mentioned about Roger's participation. He wasn't involved at all. I would imagine, don't know, but he hightailed it for the clubhouse, thinking they had won and stayed there. We don't know anything about that. It was too bad if he were on the field, he might have been able to help a little bit because what I've shown you here is a story about a ball game played in Boston in 1904, where played against Boston in New York. And Bresnahan was involved in that game, and so was Fred Tenney, in whose place uh, Merkel was playing that day. But there was an identical play, and Rogers headed for the clubhouse like everybody did before and after. Uh, and Fred Tenney, the first baseman, ran to second and called for the ball. Rogers saw that and beat him to the bag. So an identical play happened in 1904, and I've never seen anything about this before, and I have not been able to find it in any other newspaper except for the Boston Herald. Okay, slip back one more time here. I apologize for the mix up in pictures, or my mixing up the pictures. In 1911, this was an event that was new to me when I discovered it. The Cardinals were in Philadelphia. They were in the thick of the pennant race in July. They had a game in Boston the next day. They boarded a train in Philadelphia. The train headed to Jersey City, where the train was disassembled, put on barges with the passengers still aboard, hauled around uh, Manhattan Island up to the Bronx, where it was reassembled and continued on its way to Boston. Entering Bridgeport, Connecticut in the dark of night, they were crossing a railroad switch on top of a viaduct, which was 60 feet above the roadway. The speed limit for the train entering that switch was 15 miles an hour. The train hit it at 60 miles an hour. Train was off the tracks. Uh, 6 of the 9 cars tumbled down, the locomotive and the tender, all that's in a heap. You can see the picture here. The first 2 cars behind the engine are underneath all this rubble. That's where the majority of the fatalities and injuries were. 14 people died, about 70 were hurt. Uh, those were the cars that the Cardinals were in before the train was reassembled in the Bronx. When the accident happened, they were the last 2 cars and the only 2 to remain on the track. Uh, some some say, and some accounts say, that Roger Bresnahan was unhappy with the position of his cars right behind the locomotive. It was noisy, difficult for his players to sleep, and asked for it to be moved. Others said it was just happenstance how they got switched around. Nonetheless, they did. But Roger said it best himself that had that not happened, the Cardinals would have been wiped out. And just an aftermath, the Cardinals, led by Roger, first man out of their car, were first responders that day, were a great help in saving lives, and continue to work alongside the real first responders when they got on the scene. So that's a little bit of out of order. We're back to Toledo, and Roger brings the team home back to Toledo after an absence of a couple of years. They're in the Federal League. Here he is in his Toledo uniform, and he's working now as the owner, majority owner. He's the president of the club. Uh, he's the manager, and he's doing the catching as well. So he's wearing four hats at once, and I don't know that anybody else has ever done that. They may have, but I certainly don't know. He had a rocky start. His philosophy was, or what he wanted to do, he tried to do it with the Cardinals, was to bring in young players that he could teach to play his way. And he tried to do that in Toledo, but for several reasons was not able to. Among them was World War One. Toledo sent more players to World War One, so into the military than any other team in baseball did. The other was the flu epidemic. Uh, it was really tough going. He lost money most years. He had one good year, but three of the four were pretty bad. So after he was in this for 6 years, he struck a deal with John McGraw and made a working relationship with the Giants. I'm going to just give you some facts about that, what happened over that last 1922 and 1923 years that Roger had control of the Toledo Mud Hens. In April of 1922, Edgar Feely, a Giants attorney, purchased Wayne Field, the ball field in Toledo, and he began buying Mud Hen stock. In 1922, players started to move between the two clubs. Of note, Toledo got Freddie Lindstrom and pitcher Bill Terry, who was charged with turning him into a hitter, and you know how that turned out. By fall, Roger was involved in buying up Giant stock for the Giants himself, and he was advised with McGraw on roster moves for the next year. In spite of all that help from Mac and the players, 1923 turned out to be just horrible. They were 54 and 114 losses, the worst record ever for Toledo Ball Club, and that record still holds. By the end of the year, he let it be known that he was ready to get out of the game if he could, but he at the same time prepared for 1924. Annual meeting was held on January 1st of 24, and McGraw was elected a director. Not John, not John, but his brother James was made a director of the Toledo Mud Hens. Roger had the club for sale. He had a stiff price, and he got a lot of offers. A lot of people wanted to dicker it. He held firm. But on January 22nd, Joseph D. O'Brien accepted the offer. We don't know what it was, but he bought 532 shares of the 750 that existed. And it was said that he paid more than was ever paid for an American Association club. O'Brien had some giant connections. He was business manager there in 1911 and 12, and secretary of the club from 1919 until 1923, the year before that he bought the Mud Hens. But he said that the Giants no longer had any interest in the franchise, which seems a little unbelievable to me. I think he misspoke. But nonetheless, Roger was out of baseball uh, for the first time since he was 16 years old. Uh, he retired. He went home and he thought he would hunt and fish the rest of his life. In 1926, McGraw brought him back. He was a coach, did all kinds of jobs, pitching coach, third base coach, hitting coach, assistant to the manager. Uh, for McGraw for 3 years, he uh, he managed enough games that they've been added to his official record. 50 more games managed for him for the Giants. Retro Sheet has honored my research and done that. Uh, so after his short time there, he took his Mudhead money and his Giant money and his St. Louis money. He bought a beautiful home in the west side of Toledo, remarried, and decided he was just going to loaf the rest of his life. The market crash came and he was absolutely wiped out. He spent the next several years looking for work. He did get 2 years coaching with the Tigers. Uh, that ended. And he was a jailer for the city of Toledo, worked for WPA, actually with pick and shovel. Finally landed a job with the Buckeye Brewery in Toledo, Ohio. It was Toledo's foremost brewery. He was regional salesman for Buckeye, for Michigan, West Virginia, and Ohio, and did well for himself. A far cry from the money he made as a player, but he lived an upper middle class life and seemed to be happy. Stayed involved in baseball the whole way as he could. He never had children of his own. He did adopt his second wife's niece, and that was the extent of his family. But I think he enjoyed his last few years. That takes us to the end of my presentation, folks.
Thank you so much, John. Very, very informative about a player most of us knew little about. So hold on one second. Let's see. Oh, here we go. So, John, before we get started with the questions, what is the best way to get your book?
Well, for you guys, I'm sure it's Amazon. They sell more books than almost anybody. That's a good way to do it.
Got it. And I
I'd
got a
appreciate it.
couple of things. God, I think you sound so much like Jack Brickhouse. I got to tell you, you got
Well,
a
I listen to
great.
Brick House a lot. I lived in Chicago for
Maybe,
10 years.
maybe he rubbed off on you.
Or it could be.
It seemed very obvious. How long have you lived in Toledo?
I was born in Toledo and been here my whole life except for 10 years in Chicago after I was married, and I was in the Navy for 4 years, but I'm a Toledoan through and through.
As Mars would say, Holy Toledo.
That's
Anyway,
right.
it's very obvious that this book was a labor of love for you, me being that he was in Toledo a lot of his career. How long did the book take you to write?
Well, writing, I well, I'll start with the research. Research is a lot of fun, and I love doing it. And I had an article published about him in a magazine in 1987. So about 40 years of research.
Wow.
I probably did serious writing for about 3 years. That's hard work for me.
From all these years that I've been following the Giants, uh, Bresnahan was considered to be the franchise greatest catcher. I guess up until, now with Steve's boy going in 2027, Buster Posey. Um, in your research, how did Mathewson critique his catching abilities?
He thought very highly of him. They were good friends. I have a couple of pictures of them uh, uh, chatting when they were opponents, and that was kind of frowned on those days, but they did a lot. Maddie spoke very highly of him, and I speak about that in the book, and I speak about what Roger thought about Maddie. They both thought they were the best at what they did and admired each other. Good friends.
And lastly, besides the plaque in Cooperstown, are there any markers or anything in Toledo to acknowledge him?
Not a marker. We've got a permanent display at the ballpark with some artifacts of his. Uh, he's in the Ohio Baseball Hall of Fame, which is more or less defunct now, and the Toledo Hall of Fame, which is defunct now. But he's remembered by the ball club very much.
Wonderful. John, thank you so much. Mars, you're up.
Thank you, John, for joining us. By the way, Holy Toledo was coined by Bill King, the Raiders, Warriors, and Athletics announcer.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought
that's
it was
where that.
Harry Gary.
Well, if it came before Bill King, I wasn't aware of. The question I have, John, I'm sure you're aware of it, but wasn't brought up during the presentation. Didn't Roger Bresnahan invent or bring about shin guards?
I mentioned him briefly, and that's a big story, and he's responsible for them being worn now. He did not invent them. They were used in cricket and they were used in baseball. I found maybe 15 sources of players that wore some kind of a shin protection under their clothing. One of them was Red Doohan of Philadelphia. And Roger found out about that sliding into him one day. The year after that, he had a set devised in Chicago that were they were not his invention, but he made that style of shin guard himself, and it was announced in the papers. He wore them during spring training. The Giants trained in Los Angeles in 1907. He wore them out there, but when he showed up in New York, everybody was surprised, and he didn't really know how to use them. He wore them at bat several times, ran the bases with them, and but he was the first guy to do it and stood up to all the hazing, and he took a lot.
So he had to do with the design of them, since they might have been different than what cricket players used.
I think so. There's a shop, and I quote the story in the book in Chicago that he stopped there and gave them his design, and they made it for him. Yes,
Thank you, John.
sure. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mars. Jim Weber.
Hey, John, good talk. You started out your conversation with condolences on your hockey team. What's the name of that team?
The hockey team is a Toledo Walleye, play in the East Coast Hockey League, ECHL. It's the lowest level of professional hockey. There's NHL, of course, and the American Hockey League, and then the ECHL. They play great hockey, and they are a mud hens operation. We have two clubs, a baseball club and a hockey club. And our hockey club just finished second in the championship cup and sold out every game of the season. Sold out.
I
80
can tell you
games.
I can tell you how exciting that ECHL hockey is. I'm in Alaska, and our team was the Alaska Aces. We won the Robertson Cup in 6 years. We won it 3 times.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
I can tell you how exciting that hockey can be. It is the lower level, but I'll tell you what, it's a bunch of young kids that are out fighting for a future, and it's wonderful hockey. So I appreciate you bringing that up about them. Sorry they lost, but second place is still a pretty
Oh,
strong position to
they
take.
played well. They lost the last game. They outshot the guys 2-1 and lost. That's just a shame, but that's how they go.
I know
Outstanding
those
goalie.
I know those tear jerkers. I went through many of them many times. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Jim, the reason we scheduled it for today was we thought they'd win either game 6 or 7, but it just wasn't meant to be.
Boy, he would have been a happy lad.
Oh, yes, he would
I
be.
would.
Norm Coleman, you're up.
John, thank you so much for your presentation. Almost everything that you talked about, I didn't know. And so it's very informative for me. I have a fond place in my heart for Toledo. This is my Toledo Mudhead souvenir.
Oh, there you
Wow.
go. Yeah.
It's a Casey Stengel bobblehead from Bobblehead Night. I went to that game.
Oh, you
Um,
did.
Yes, I
Yeah.
did. And then the next day went to Ned Skelton Stadium, which is it still there?
Yeah, but it shouldn't be. It's about done.
Okay, I'm sorry
It was
about
used for
that.
years, but so you saw a new park that we're very proud of.
And then Tony Pacos, of course.
Yeah.
My question is, besides Casey Stengel, another New York Giant, had a year while Bresnahan owned the club. Jim Thorpe played for the Toledo in 1921.
Right.
You discuss him in your book at all?
I do. He was not giant property when Roger got him, but he bought him from a club in Akron, Ohio, and brought him here with the idea that he play for the club, and then that he and Roger would invest in, and Jim would run a football club in the fall. But that never happened. Jim had a very good year for us, so
I think he had like
very well.
112 RBIs or something. Thanks so
Yeah.
much, John.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Norm, why didn't you say hello to him? I'm a little surprised. You're a friendly guy, Norm. Ed, you're up. Ed looks like he's frozen. Harvey.
Muted.
Harvey, you're muted.
I get that idea.
Ed, you're next.
Yeah.
Harvey, go ahead.
Yeah. No, Ed, go ahead.
Ed, go ahead. Harvey, go ahead.
Can you?
Am I up, Gary?
Go ahead,
Come on.
Harvey.
No?
John, okay. All right, John, that was great. I like Norm, knew very little about Roger
All right.
Bresnahan.
Okay.
My question is about Toledo and MASH. What, if anything, did Toledo gain by Corporal Klinger being an important character on MASH?
Well, we've gained an awful lot. That all came about. We were in the 70s. We were a farm club of the Twins. That wasn't working out too well. The operation of the club wasn't. We got a new manager, Gene Cook, who had the vision for the new ballpark that we just mentioned downtown. It's since been built. But the first thing Gene Cook did was reach out to Jamie Farr and kind of recruit him to help us with marketing. And that's when he appeared on MASH. And that's just been a tremendous success. People tell me, and I've experienced it myself, no matter where you go, you're liable to run into some mud hens gear. And for years, and I don't know if it's the case, we're the top few, but 10 years ago, every year we were, after that, for 4 or 5 years, we were selling more stuff out of our shop, more mud hens gear than any other minor league club. And a lot of that is due to Jamie Farr and his plugging us on MASH.
Yeah, if I remember right, he wore the Toledo Mud Hens cap when he wasn't dressed in drag.
He did, and he wore the jersey once. Yeah, he did everything he could to promote it, and it got good results. That was a stroke of marketing genius for Gene Cook, our general manager. Worked out well.
Well, I'm glad. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
That was a pleasure. Thank you.
Ed, you want to give it another shot? Ed, clear. Go ahead, Ed. Talk.
Verizon, maybe you can hear me.
No, we don't hear you good, Ed.
Can you hear me?
Try it now. Try it. Go
Or
ahead.
is it just Verizon a problem? Give up. Maybe
All right, not working.
Sorry.
Anybody else have a question of
Okay.
John?
The catcher
Go ahead.
I saw him wearing in the when he was the coach of the Mud.
Not working. I have to mute you. I'm sorry, Ed. Does anybody else have a question who hasn't asked one? Howard, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, John. Very good presentation. I enjoy hearing about the old New York Giants. Well,
Thank you. Thank you.
but I have a personal connection with you, kind of, not really, but kind of. My son is a graduate of Bowling Green,
Okay.
and he was assistant basketball coach. He was a sports management major over there, and he coached the team as an assistant. I should say not coach, but manager of the team back in the 2014 to 2018, that period. And my wife and I would go up there to, the Battle of I-75.
Yep.
That's a real big deal. That's almost like a Subway Series with the Yankees and the Mets.
Well, that's what it is.
Mostly we saw basketball, not so much. I saw Toledo play them in football as well at the Deutsch, I guess they call the stadium.
Uh-huh.
But we enjoyed that rivalry between the two schools and the two towns.
It's a real one.
I wanted just to know, is that the way it really is? Has it always been that way, that Toledo and Bowling Green are at each other's throats, literally?
Well, I don't think the city is, but the sports teams are. And we had it this year in baseball too. It's a pretty big deal. Football games, of course, the biggest.
Yeah.
But that's an awful lot of fun. And I had a granddaughter that went to Bowling Green, played volleyball there just recently, and they're not far from us. I had no idea what a fine school was. It was a great program, and she really liked it. It's a good school.
Well,
Good
they
school.
were known in basketball for Nate Thurman, as you might know,
Yeah.
Hall of Famer with the Warriors, and also Howie Comives, who played with the Knicks for a while. He might have been one of the guys traded for Dave DeBusschere. But the thing about Bowling Green basketball is they haven't been in the NCAA since 1964.
Yeah.
And I find that mind-boggling. And they were on the cusp of making it in the COVID year, 2020, and then the season disappeared on
Yeah.
March 12th. So poor Bowling Green is still waiting to get back in. But I enjoy going up to that area, to Bowling Green. We went up to Toledo. There was a casino up there, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
We always had good experience.
You just lit me up with your mention of Nathan and Howard Colmize. I played Are we still on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I played high school basketball with Howard Colmize. We were teammates.
Well, he played for the Knicks when the Knicks were bad.
Yeah.
And I think he was one of the guys that went into the Busher trade, which
I traded to
Yeah.
Detroit. Yeah.
during the
He
Knicks.
was the best short, white, slow basketball player there ever was.
He was a
could
good player.
shoot.
Comize
He
was
was a
okay, but
shooter.
underrated, underappreciated until he was traded away. Then people were grateful that he was traded for the Busher.
Yeah. Thank you.
Did you take him to the hoop, John?
No, not him.
Okay.
He was tough.
Anybody else have a question? Why don't we all give it up for John Husman? John, again, here's the book, Baseball Life, available on Amazon.
Amazon, yep.
Can't thank you enough for spending the evening with us.
Well, thanks for
thank
adjusting
you.
your schedule.
Thank you for enlightening us on a giant Hall of Famer who many of us knew very little about. It's good that you were explaining somebody not really talked about. So
Good job.
anyway, again, happy Father's Day to all of the dads and
Same to you.
caretakers. And I will have a live stream on YouTube on Wednesday to honor Willie Mays' 1-year anniversary of his passing. And we will have the giant Shayna Dom next Wednesday night. It'll be a Wednesday night Zoom at 7:00. So I'm going to shut off the recording. If anybody wants to hang around and talk giant baseball, you should. It's everybody's in a good mood these days. So until next week, have a great night, everybody. Be well.